join the masses in coming out, playing the drums to put a spring in the step of the protesters, because it takes away from the situation where we're really angry, mourning, and this gives a sense of relief away from the trauma to which we're all experiencing.
There's definitely a double standard we're witnessing in the Olympics. So the Palestinian flags have been banned, and no attempt at show or allowing the solidarity to be shown with the Palestinians. And at the same time, Israel is allowed to participate. In other words, the message is clear. It doesn't need me to interpret. Everybody can see the message for what it is. It's that Israel can continue to systematically, ethnically cleanse the Palestinians, whether that's in Gaza or the West Bank, and nobody will do anything about it.
This is apparently the biggest demonstration anyone can remember in August. Usually everyone's on holiday, but here we are in the streets demanding a ceasefire! My dad is from Jordan and he's 91 and he witnessed the beginning of the Nakba. And I said to him a couple of weeks ago, "How are you doing, Dad?" And he said, "Never in my lifetime did I think I would see one Palestinian flag flying." He said, "Now I see millions all over the world. So raise your flags high for a free Palestine." Yes. I'm going to read you a poem by Fadwa Tukan. And my father interviewed her in the 70s, and he said she was a beautiful lady, and she was the very spirit of Palestinian resistance to the occupation of their land. The deluge and the tree. When the hurricane swirled and spread its deluge of dark evil onto the good green land, they gloated. The western skies reverberated with joyous accounts. The tree has fallen. The great trunk is smashed. The hurricane leaves no life in the tree. Had the tree fallen? Never! Not with our red streams flowing forever, not while the wine of our torn limbs feed the thirsty roots, Arab roots, alive, tunneling deep, deep into the land. And when the tree rises up, the branches shall flourish, green and fresh in the sun. The laughter of the tree shall leaf beneath the sun, and birds shall return, undoubtedly. The birds shall return. The birds shall return.
This week, sadly, the headlines have been focused elsewhere as an emboldened fascism and far right in this country continue to take to the streets in large numbers, seeking to capitalise on the horrific events in Southport last Monday morning. As they riot and spew their hatred and division through towns and cities across the UK, activists, anti-racists and anti-fascists are rightly countering their narrative. And even though sometimes outnumbered, still standing up for what's right in the knowledge collectively there are more of us than there ever will be of them. And comrades, while the focus of many of us understandably has to be shared right now during these testing times between opposing the fascists and supporting the Palestinian people, the genocide being committed in Gaza and the escalating violence of Israel throughout the region show us what happens when the politics of hate and division are allowed to become a true force of power. Now we have right-wing people sitting on the green benches behind me, with a political foothold in many of our communities backed up by the mobs roaming the streets. And these worrying times, we must be absolutely clear, we will fight every single one of them, every single week, until they disappear back down the hole they came from. So while these difficult times are here at home, we will never forget the devastation and genocide experienced by the Palestinian brothers and sisters. And we must commit from here every single day moving forward to raise our voices even louder than they have been, and tell our government and every world leader supports an independent and free Palestine.
Now here in front of the 10 Downing Street, I urge Keir Starmer now, not tomorrow, to keep his word before the elections. He promised to immediately recognize Palestine. Yet he didn't. And I'm telling 10 Downing Street, Great Britain shouldn't be waiting a permission from the White House to recognize Palestine or not. The IDF thinking that killing a journalist is silencing them. No, you need to change your strategies. We do not fear bullets. In Palestine, we don't like the war. But if there is a call for the war, we are going to be in the front line. Finally, to Netanyahu, you may have succeeded to kill over 160 of our colleagues, but you will never kill the idea of resistance and dedication. Netanyahu, you beheaded Ismail al-Ghul, our friend, and over 160 journalists to silence them. We are here to be Gaza journalist megaphones forever.
We welcome the decision not to oppose the ICC arrest warrant of war criminal Netanyahu. And finally, the restoration of UNRWA funding, righting a wrong that should never have happened in the first place. But this is the bare minimum. This week, the head of the British Army met with the IDF, promising deepening military ties between the UK and Israel. Statements from the Foreign Secretary focus only on Israeli suffering and continues to dismiss the ongoing genocide. David Lammy, where is your humanity? We've had the Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, former Vice Chair of Labour Friends of Israel, say he sees a trade deal with Israel as crucial to the future of UK growth. What I see as crucial is to make sure that the UK never again is complicit in a genocide. So to the Labour front bench, when will your complicity end? Last week I said to Keir Starmer, you claim you want Labour to be a force for good in the world. You claim Labour have returned the UK to the international stage. You claim you are a champion of human rights. So when will you end this Labour government's complicity in war crimes, and will you end arms sales to Israel now? Back in October, when I first addressed this march, colleagues in my party told me to stop calling on our leader Keir Starmer because he's just in opposition, they said. Well, he's not in opposition anymore, and his excuses have run out. Starmer, we don't want excuses, we don't want delay, we don't want you to say you're different from the Tories, we want you to smash the Tory legacy of complicity in Israeli war crimes. We want action, no more delay, no more excuses. Keir Starmer, you talk about the full force of the law. Well, it's time to use the full force of UK law, of international law, of human rights law to bring an end to the bombing, an end to the genocide, an end to the crimes being committed by Israel, an end to the ethnic cleansing, end to the illegal occupation, and an end to apartheid.
David Lammy, our Foreign Secretary, tweeted a call. He called for the hostages held by Hamas to be released, and he called for a ceasefire. There were things that he did not mention. He did not mention the 40,000 Palestinians slaughtered and the thousands of children in Gaza missing, presumed dead, under the rubble of their homes. He did not mention the hospitals, churches, mosques, schools and universities destroyed as Israel has laid waste to Gaza's infrastructure. And he did not mention that since the beginning of this genocide, unknown thousands of Palestinians in Gaza have been rounded up, detained, stripped and tortured. He did not mention that in the West Bank, since October, Israel has detained more than 10,000 Palestinians, mostly without charge, and he did not see fit to mention the UN report released a day before he tweeted that documented Israel's systemic abuse, torture and rape of those detainees, or if you prefer, Palestinian hostages. And friends, his call for a ceasefire was empty because it did not address the reason why 10 months later there is no ceasefire. It did not address the numerous statements by Netanyahu that Israel will not stop until it has completed the annihilation of Hamas, which means, in its terminology, the annihilation of all of Gaza. Now we know the lessons of history, the lessons of the past 76 years are clear. If you grant Israel impunity, it will do what it wants, commit any atrocity, violate any law. We all saw that reality again this week when it launched strikes on Beirut and Iran, risking a wider war, and in its killing of Ismail Haniyeh, deliberately undermining ceasefire negotiations. Salami says he wants an end to violence, but we know the truth that he does not address. There will be no peace. There will be no end to violence until there is an end to Israel's system of oppression, until the dismantlement of his regime of colonization, occupation and apartheid. And friends, we know too this lesson from history, that what brings an end to regimes of oppression are two things: the ongoing resistance of the oppressed people and the pressure exerted through global solidarity through the medium of boycott, sanctions and divestment. Our leaders will not end their complicit support for Israel's genocide until we force them to. Our public bodies and our companies will not stop funding Israel's oppression unless we force them to. So friends, we cannot stop our actions, and believe you me, the government and our public bodies and our corporations are feeling the pressure of this movement, of your activism. Before I came on stage, I was contacted with some breaking news. We are waiting to verify it, but we are informed that newspapers are reporting today that the government has instructed civil servants not to process any new licenses for the sale of arms to Israel until it has completed a review. Friends, if that is true, it is because of the pressure of this movement, but it is not enough. It is not enough until the government introduces a full two-way arms embargo. But friends, we have other news to share with you that you would have already seen. Last week, King's College became the first university in London to divest from companies supplying weapons to Israel. We salute the students who campaigned for that victory. Last week, Walton Forest Pension Fund announced that it will divest from all complicit companies. We salute all of the activists who campaigned for that victory, including the local PSC branch. And just in the last few days, Islington Council has announced that it is dropping its contract with Barclays Bank. We salute everybody who campaigned for that victory.
So what we have behind is a recreation of the original Jenin horse. The original horse was created by a German artist called Thomas Kilper back in 2003. after the Israelis went in to massacre lots of people in the Jenin refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. The artist went there, and with some of the refugees from the camp, they welded together parts of aid vehicles and people's businesses that had been destroyed in this incursion. After the horse was created, they paraded it on the back of a trailer with a tractor around the occupied West Bank as a show of resistance and solidarity with the people who've been massacred, that we would not be dispirited by what had happened. At the end of October last year, 2023, the Israelis, empowered by what had happened during October, went into Jenin and they destroyed the original horse with a bulldozer. Around that time, I as an artist kind of felt that this was an attack on what makes us human. So with the arts, music, dance, all these things is kind of what defines us human beings. So for them to attack that is just another assault on what makes the Palestinians, humans like all of us. So after that happened, in the same spirit as the original, with people from my local community, we created a few painting days where we created the panels, and lots of children and lots of people from different backgrounds from the community came and painted them in the spirit of the original, and then I put them together into the horse that you see here today. It's been on a tour since March around the whole of the UK. It's been to some of the Uni-Solidarity encampments, Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, London. This is the third time here in London. Today it's great to bring it to the heart of government outside 10 Downing Street to show the government that we're not going anywhere and that we won't stop until Palestine's liberated. And the power of this symbol of the horse is key to the Palestinians' way of life. They hold so dear to themselves the power of symbols. The key that you see here hanging around its nose symbolises the right to return. Lots of people since the first Nakba in 1948 still have their keys from their original homes that they were displaced from, with the hope of the right to return. The keffiyeh, the watermelons, all these symbols have been compiled into this 5-metre tall horse that's parading around and showing people, solidarity and how we're together in this movement. They're planning to rebuild the original Jenin horse, and there's a delegation, I think, of Japanese artists there, and also there's talks about possibly going out there to help them rebuild the original one, and probably make it bigger and better than ever, and show that the Palestinian resilience is as steadfast as ever despite the genocide that's going on in Gaza.